Hello, and welcome to this special segment of SoCo Chat. Today, we're doing something a little out of the ordinary. At this time, Sonoma County is in the middle of a series of storms, in many cases, what are known as atmospheric rivers, that have the potential to cause flooding, power outages, downed trees, and possibly landslides. So, to discuss this situation, we've invited for a quick chat Jeff DuVall, Director of Sonoma County's Department of Emergency Management. Jeff, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, especially in such short notice. Would you start by just explaining a little bit about what the Department of Emergency Management does and how it was created?
Yeah, so following 2017, the Board of Supervisors created the Department of Emergency Management, and what our mission and our task is to prepare the county government and the county unincorporated for our response to emergencies and disasters.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes plans such as our emergency operations plan, our county continuity of government plan, annexes to our emergency operations plan, such as our response to mass care and shelter, extreme temperatures, earthquakes, flooding events on the lower Russian River, and also working with our operational area partners, which are our 9 cities, our special districts in the county, making sure that we're collaborating with them, getting information from them, how events or emergencies are impacting them, working as a resource for them when they need to request resources and materials that they're unable to get on their own. And we also act as the middle point for the coordination between the state government, which is the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, or Cal OES, and the counties and the cities and the special districts in the county. So we work very closely with Cal OES when we have emergencies and getting what the disaster or the potential disaster impact is, or our initial damage assessment is what we call it.
So you really serve as a hub of a lot of resources and jurisdictions that respond to whatever the crisis may be, whether it's a fire or a flood or whatever, correct?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that in a minute. I just wanted to start. As I mentioned at the outset, we have a series of storms, atmospheric rivers, if you will, that are moving across this region. Our first bout was not quite as bad as we thought it was. We got hit pretty hard, but I think the river is not in threat of Russian River is not at threat at flooding right now. But we are seeing what is expected in terms. So I want to ask. But we do see another storm system coming in on Sunday night into Monday, and who knows what comes after that. What can we expect in terms of flooding risk for Sonoma County?
Definitely. So we're starting to recover from the storm that passed through us yesterday and last night. We've definitely seen some small stream flooding, Mark West Creek watershed, the Green Valley watershed area. Some areas down in Shelville have flooded in that. And that's normal when we have a storm like this come through. We did have some predictions early on in the storm that the Russian River could reach what we call monitor stage, which is 29 feet at the Guerneville gauge. Fortunately, it did not reach that. The predictions ended up coming down, but we were ready. We started mobilizing our Department of Emergency Management resources and our resources across the county to respond to that and making sure that they had the resources needed. As we start to look out to this storm this weekend on Sunday and Monday, we're taking that same approach again, starting to work with our partners at the National Weather Service and the California Nevada River Forecasting Center. What the predictions are looking like, what they know right now. And those predictions change as we move closer and closer to Sunday. But at any take that, starting to look at what the predictions are and where we are right now in our preparedness stage and where we need to be in case if the river does flood or we do start seeing more flooding in areas that we have to take response with our public safety partners.
Yeah. When you talk about forecasting, I mean, that is a tricky science, but I know you work very closely with the National Weather Service. All jurisdictions, you do these operational updates, meetings. through Zoom with all our different entities, cities, fire districts, everybody and you're very good about keeping everybody up to date. What does this system look like? Even when there's not an atmospheric river, just so keeping people up to date when there's possibly a cold weather event coming and coordination. So you do a lot of work on the planning stage.
Yes.
What else do you, in an event where is potential flooding or power outages, what else is the county, what else do you do at the Department of Emergency Management in response?
And to
Or
highlight,
maybe recovery as well.
and to highlight part of that response, every day in Sonoma County, we have one of our emergency service coordinators that is our 24/7 duty officer. And they're basically keeping their finger on the pulse of what's going on in the county. And not only in our county, but our surrounding counties for potential impacts here. So right now, the duty officer is monitoring the storm. And the storm that's coming in behind it. And what they're looking at is gathering the information from the county departments and special districts and from the cities of what that impact is and what resources, road closures, floodings, responses to vehicles in water and whatnot. And we're painting a big picture. And that's where those situation reports that you talked about come from, is to let our county government and our operational area partners know what's going on in the county and the potential impacts that they could be seeing coming towards them or to also contribute to that report. So we'll continue to see that through this weekend. The duty officer, when we have events like this, we bring a second duty officer on to support them with notifications and whatnot, because it can get overwhelming for one person to handle.
Well, you also are really good about working with residents about preparing for themselves and their homes for crises like these, and what they can do in advance, getting a go bag ready, home hardening in the event of wildfire, things like that. What should residents be doing now? Obviously, the event is coming; it's here. Are there things that residents should be doing to prepare for storms like this?
Great question, Paul. And I would say the big thing right now is taking a look at your go bag, making sure that your go bag is ready to go. You've got batteries for your flashlight, batteries for your radio, you've got extra batteries. And then also just doing that walk around your house and your property, taking a look at the storm drains, taking a look at your rain gutters and culverts. Areas that that are low lying, that flood out, maybe clean out some of those storm drains or those rain gutters, get the leaves out of them. If needed, sandbags on your property. We have a list of sandbags on SoCoEmergency.org, or they can call 211 to get those resources. And really just taking that proactive approach now versus when the rain comes and trying to react to the flooding into a home.
Yeah, people often think nowadays what we've been through is go bags is only for wildfire, but we need them in floods too. You never know when there might be a power outage or an evacuation.
Exactly.
Right?
Go bags are all hazards now when you truly look at it, whether it's power outages, rain events, cold events, heat events. There's always something in that go bag to help and support you and your family.
Yeah, and having those batteries and backup radios, because you never know, especially in an event like this where they're accompanied with high winds.
Yes.
We got vulnerable trees out there. Our soils are saturated. There's a potential for power outages out there.
Definitely. And speaking of power outages, we work very closely with Pacific Gas and Electric. At the height of the storm yesterday in Sonoma County, we were about 1,400 customers without power. PG&E does an amazing job to get out into the area when they can, as quickly as they can, as safely as they can to work towards restoring that power. And this morning when I checked in, we're about 240 customers currently without power, mostly up on the North Coast, but they definitely have a lot of crews and assets out there trying to restore.
Well, we particularly saw that in the storms a year ago, right?
Yes.
We had, especially in West County, we had a lot of remote areas, roads where there's power outages and there was blockages, and PG&E jumped on that and really got out there fast, as I recall.
Definitely, and that's also another hazard to keep in mind when we have these storms and these high winds and the rain is the ground is saturated. Trees are falling and coming down. They're coming across roads. The winds will knock trees and whatnot across roadways, and that hampers first responders and PG&E to get into an area to get those services back online.
Well, and we also can have standing water in roads. So I just wanted to bring this up because we saw this last year, and we actually saw it again last night. We had a woman trapped in a car near Mark West Station. It's a common area when Mark West Springs Creek swells and events like this. What is your advice to people?
It's not worth it. turn
Yeah.
around, don't drown. It takes very little water to actually move an adult. You know, fast moving water, and it takes even less water to move a small car and an SUV. To be
Mhm.
honest with you, Paul, I've stood out on a flooded roadway here in Sonoma County, and I have watched a large Ford F-250
Mhm.
go across the floodwaters,
Thinking they're going to
thinking they
make
can
it.
do it.
Yeah.
And you know, granted, they made it safely across, but by the time they got to the other side, the water had moved them over to the opposing lane of traffic.
Yeah.
And you know, I tried to stop the person, but it's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
not that water is not worth risking your life over.
Yeah. Well, we live in a rural area.
We do.
People are very independent.
They
They
are.
think their car can go anywhere. And it's really hard sometimes,
It is.
especially in the dark, to tell how flooded that road is. And as you say, it's better to don't risk it. It's not worth it.
Exactly, especially at night. If you're unsure at night, that's definitely the time to turn around and wait until light.
Yeah. Well, so much of what you talk about is communications, right? Making sure the information is the accurate information is shared among in that hub of activity that you do, but also pushed out to the public.
Definitely.
Where can residents find the latest information about sandbags, about road conditions, things like that?
Yeah, definitely. SoCoEmergency.org is the county's site for all information on preparedness and emergency response, current emergency response, and recovery information. If you go to SoCoEmergency.org and the blue tab that comes up that says Be Ready, you can click on that tab, and on there should be some information around sandbags, um, where the current sandbag locations are in the county. And we work very closely with our 9 cities to update that information for their community too. So that way they
Mhm.
can go to that website and get the information there. If
Yeah,
you're
it's
out,
not just information about the unincorporated areas of the county.
it's the entire
We
county.
share all our information about, if a city sets up a warming center or something, we make sure that's on there.
Definitely, it's all on there. There's preparedness tips on there. There is a link over to Sonoma County Public Infrastructure's road closures, so the
Mhm.
county road closures in the
A
county.
great map that people can access.
Yes, definitely. SoCoEmergency.org is also the place that you can turn to sign up for SoCo alerts.
Mhm.
How we alert you in times of emergency that you need to take action, whether it's an evacuation warning, evacuation order, or a shelter in place. SoCo alerts is the place to go and get signed up for that.
Yeah. Well, I think we just had a slide up showing our viewers where they can go. But for our listeners, that's socoemergency.org, O-R-G. Great resource for information. I appreciate you mentioning that.
And also, I
That was
want to share if you can't make it over to SoCo emergency.org, you can always call 211 to get that information.
Yeah. We work closely with 211 and supplying them, making sure they have the most up-to-date information. And if they get a call that they don't have an answer to, they call us over at communications to
Definitely.
see if we can, and we work with you to get them an answer.
Great partnership.
Yeah, very good. So when full-blown crises do happen, you activate what's known as an emergency operations center. That is actually located in a separate, standalone building right over here, right next to the new Hall of Justice that's being built. Do you have plans to activate an emergency operations center in this event?
So yesterday, the Department of Emergency Management team, our Emergency Coordination and Response Division, we moved over to the Emergency Operations Center yesterday.
A warm-up kind of thing?
Yeah, it was basically just to paint the picture of what's going on in the county. We did not expect to activate the Emergency Operations Center yesterday. We felt that the conditions in the forecasting didn't warrant it, but we were there in case if we needed to. For the storm coming in this weekend, that's to be determined as we start to have conversations
Based on the severity.
with them, with
Yeah.
the Weather Service.
Yeah. Well, we certainly activated it a year ago. We
did.
activated it during every fire that I can recall.
Fortunately.
Yeah. So we know how to operate that center well, but it's a great tool for when something is clearly a crisis in our community. So
Definitely. And in short, what the Emergency Operations Center is we bring in members of the county family, county departments, county staff that specialize in certain areas of the response going on in the field and the support to that response in the field. And what it does is it brings us into one common building, one common location, so that way we are all collaborating and supporting each other to support the the response in the field, the mitigation and the recovery, and all the support like mass care and shelter,
Yeah.
getting the roads open and whatnot. So it brings us under one building to do.
Yeah. It's amazing the coordination that takes place there. One of the other things that the coordination that's really improved is the understanding about evacuation zones. I just want to talk about that. I know you haven't activated any evacuations at this point, but
Yes.
but to be on the safe side, where can people make sure they know what their evacuation zone is in the event that it's needed?
Great question, Paul. And you can go to socoemergency.org and
Like,
again
once
go
again?
to that blue button, and you'll see a button there that says Know Your Zone. You'll click on that button. A map will pop up. It will ask you to enter your address, and it's going to tell you what zone number you're in, and it's going to show you on the map your zone, and it's going to show you what your boundaries are for that zone. And I encourage everyone to know what their zone number is for their home. For their work. And if you have children that go to school here in Sonoma County, know what their evacuation zone is.
Yeah. And that's so important because, when it comes time to evacuate with fire or whatever, and they put out the word, we're evacuating, that zones 41, 40, and 42, you'll know when you're involved. And that doesn't mean you're not going to be evacuated if you don't. They're still going to find a way to make sure you get notified.
Yeah.
SoCo alerts is another great way to be notified that you're in the zone.
In the toolbox.
Many tools, but it's one for those who are really keyed in, know their zone. It's the best way to stay informed.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, besides this storm, aside from this, it's been a relatively mild winter. We've had a lot of rain, but not major flooding events. That's a great thing. We do have the potential for some cold temperatures coming up. I do want to point out last year that the Board of Supervisors approved at your recommendation an extreme weather response plan that called for setting up warming centers during certain situations, cold weather events. Could you remind us when and under what conditions the county plans to activate a warming center during cold weather events?
Yeah, so we, in the plan, we have different trigger points when we are looking at whether it's heat or cold. We look at the cold weather when we start to drop below, when we get into the mid 30s.
Okay.
And what we do is we look at that temperature across how many days. Usually our trigger point is 3 days or more of a said temperature, or 2 days or more of a lower temperature with a hazard. And that hazard is wind chill and rain.
Chill, yeah.
Because obviously with that wind and with that rain and that wind chill, it's going to bring the temperature down even more.
Right.
So what we do is we work with a wide variety of our operational area partners here in the county, all of our cities. We work very closely with the Department of Health Services and the Ending Homeless Task Force, and looking at what that looks like of the current capacity of any unhoused shelters, and if we need to spin up expanded capacity and help and support that. And then we're also taking a look at what does this impact just overall, and does the county need to step in and open up any warming or cooling centers for the county unincorporated areas. Then we work very closely with the cities on what their actions are within their jurisdictions.
Yeah, to make sure that their needs are filled. Well, and so much of it is situational and depending on the forecast, once again, of what we're anticipating. And but I know you work very closely with the National Weather Service, and when they issue a cold-related warning, a freeze, cold, or frost, we're going to put out that information, and we encourage people to stay alert to how that may impact them. And once again, we want to encourage them to go to socoemergency.org, where we'll be posting that information and any information about warming centers or cooling centers during the summer, and not just what we do, but what the cities are doing. We coordinate with all that information there.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, that's an important thing. Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know about what you do and what they should do to prepare for these or any other crises that may come our way?
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Paul. And I think the biggest message to everyone out there is just be ready. You never know when a disaster or an emergency is going to strike. Have a go bag at home, have a go bag in your office, and have a go bag in your car, and be ready. Be prepared. Make sure that you sign up for the alerts that we have here in Sonoma County, SoCo Alert. Make sure that your phone is enabled to receive all those alerts. And really just have those conversations with your family and friends of what your plan is, where you're going to go, where you're going to meet, who you're going to call to know that you're okay. And we have, again, a lot of information on socoemergency.org under that blue tab for Be Prepared, of how to have these conversations and the checklists and the go bags and how to have those conversations with everyone. So many resources there.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Jeff, thank you. We know you're a busy man. We appreciate you taking time out to be with us today. Good luck with all that you have going on. As a thank you, we do want to give you one of our SoCo SoCoEmergency.org. I wish that is what it'd say. Maybe we need one SoCo Chat podcast mugs. So
awesome. Thank you, Paul.
And to our listeners, if you have any questions about this or any other segment, or have suggestions for a topic for a future SoCo Chat discussion, please email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. But once again, best place for information about emergencies in the county, go to socoemergency.org. Thank you, and be sure to tune in for our next segment of SoCo Chat. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Paul.